right, here we go. So welcome everybody. Today we are going to be discussing universal design for learning and really in the arena of what is engagement, how do we engage our kids? So we welcome you today and we hope that you'll learn a lot from our Assistive Technology Forward project. This is our second presentation in the month of December, and the bit.ly is up here if you want to access our slides. So here we go, folks, our learning objectives for today. We really want you to learn. Oh, sorry about that, Anna. Go right ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say our learning objectives. We really want you all to learn that about 3 different technology items that can be considered universal design for learning. We're going to talk about universal design for learning, what that means. We're going to help you understand how the SET process and other assistive technology processes and supports can apply to universal design for learning. And we're going to look at how specific assistive technology tools or resources and how AT really relates to UDL in the first place. So we have lots to chat about today. We're excited to talk to you. All right, I'll start with who I am. Some of you have seen me before, but I'm Anna Cliff. I'm an occupational therapist, special education teacher, and AT specialist for 16 years. I recently finished my administration licensing as well. So I feel like I'm constantly wanting to learn more. I'm an assistive technology lead in a Madison Metropolitan School District. I often present in local, state, and national conferences. And I love being a member of the AT Board because I continue to learn as much as I like to share what I know. So thanks for letting me be here.
And I'm the other co-presenter today. My name is Kathy White. I was an assistive technology specialist in a school system for 33 years. So I've had lots of experience from the itty bitty kids, 3-year-olds, all through the high school. I did travel between 21 different schools. So I've done a lot of those things. I was a classroom teacher at the high school level. So when people tell me things can't be done, I'm like, I was there. I know it can be done. I did run the assistive technology team for the school district of Janesville, and we had a great team there, and they still do. I am a presenter at both state and national conferences. I presented at Closing the Gap, ATIA, CSUN, kind of been lots of different places. And right now I am the co-chair of the AT Forward project with Stacy Duffy, who is the transition person for CISA 2. And I'm also a member of SLATE, and SLATE in this term is state leaders in assistive technology and education. So I'm very happy to be a part of that. And as like Anna said, we just keep on learning because that's what we're here for.
All right, we'll talk first about this definition of universal design for learning. And this definition comes from the CAST website. And Kathy, remind me, CAST stands for now I'm going to pull a blank. I will.
Yep, both of us did.
I'll find it. Yep, we'll find it by the next slide. In the next coming slides, we'll find the what that is. But CAST is a wonderful organization and website that provides a lot of resources on universal design for learning. They've done a ton of research nationwide to really benefit and support this. There's modules you can gain access to, as well as tons of resources to share with families, educators, and other people in your school district. But from their perspective, this is how they define universal design for learning: an educational framework based on research in the learning sciences that guides the development of flexible methods, materials, and environments that embrace variability, minimize barriers, and develop expert learning for all. And that key is expert learning for all. We're not just designing or developing or supporting an education for just a few students. We're thinking about the learning experiences for all students. So that's where we're really going to talk about how we can support that today.
I found the definition. Way to go, stump the presenters right away. It's the Center for Applied Special Technologies. And I knew that. It's just, of course,
I did too.
Somebody had to ask it. It's like, poof, and it's gone. So see,
yes, and I did it, right? See?
You don't have to be an expert. You just got to be able to ask the right questions, right? And thank goodness for Google.
All right, so this is one way to think about universal design. So this isn't necessarily universal design for learning. We're thinking about universal design. So talking about those barriers and environments. So here you'll see, I brought this up because it was just so impactful for me as I went through my assistive technology certificate. We had to look through the world around us and find examples of things that were good and things that were missing. And ADA has a lot of requirements, but even the minimal requirements aren't necessarily always meeting the needs of all people, right? So the idea of universal design is that we're building a space that can be built and designed in a way that makes it accessible for a wide range of people. So that first one, right? We're thinking about, oh, let's get a ramp for this location. Well, that's a major fail. We put steps up to a ramp. How is somebody going to access the ramp who may need it? And then even the how steep the ramp might be, or the railings, right? Potentially the color of the stairs going up to it, right? There's so many things we could point out that maybe aren't ideal in this situation. Now, if you look at the other two designs, you can make a design beautiful and aesthetically pleasing, but still have universal aspects. And I love that that's what I take from these concepts of that universal design. People think you have to make something gaudy or different or totally modified in a way that doesn't fit everybody. But think of how beautiful these spaces can be when we think about universal access, right? So that middle one, it's just beautiful, right? Multiple ways of getting up the stairs, still having some railings, ramps up the side, kind of meandering up the way. The only thing I would say that I would maybe consider differently with this is for a person who might be blind or visually impaired, there's not a lot of contrast in these stairs or maybe even texture. So that would probably be the one thing that I would look at, and maybe even some additional railings depending on the space. But so I like to show the one on the upper right there with the variation of colors, the stairs on the end, but you can also take that route, the ramp, if you needed the ramp for a physical limitation, or you just wanted to meander up, or if you had a child in a stroller. There's so many people that could access and use that ramp in a way that would benefit them. But it's also just very beautiful space to look at with the greenery and the other things present there. So when we think about universal design for learning, we're thinking about the spaces and the design that we're doing to design that environment that minimizes barriers for all, but makes it user friendly for all as well. So just like to show the visuals in that way, because I think it helps link us to the learning part that we'll get to next. Did you want me to go through this one, Kathy?
Yes, please.
Okay, so then we talk about what is universal design for learning. So that L on the end, right? How does it make it universal design for learning? So what's your goal? So there's three primary UDL principles: representation, engagement, action, and expression, and they all combine together to provide this concept of UDL. And when we think about UDL, it also overlaps with assistive technology and instructional technology. All of those go hand in hand to develop an environment that reduces barriers and helps provide expert learning. Kathy, did you have anything else you wanted to say about this one, or?
The only thing I really do like about these is that when you think about what is representation, it's like it's the what, how are you giving it to your students? Are you remembering to put the closed captioning on? Are you remembering that you may have a student who's a lower reader? So did you add any other supports for that student? And the action and expression is, how does that student give it back to you? There's always more than one way to get someplace. So I always tell people, it doesn't matter how you get there, through the wall, over the wall, under the wall. It's just that you get there, so it really doesn't matter. But the only thing that matters is what is that end goal. So always kind of thinking about that. So with all that in mind, there's so many pieces to this, but we really want to talk today about the engagement part, because if you don't get our students engaged in this process, then learning doesn't happen. So we have to make sure that we get them started somehow. How do you get them hooked in? It's that why. I was just at a state conference, and they talked about the task before the app. So think about what is that task you really want them to do, and really tell them what's going on. Today we're going to do blank because of blank. so it gets the students engaged. Otherwise, they don't know why they're there, and that why is critically important. You think about little kids, our last COP meeting, we talked a lot about behavior, and we were talking about small kids, and what do they always say? Why? Why? And we want kids to have that questioning. We want adults to have that questioning, that ability to kind of engage in that give and take kind of conversation. So, and as you can see from all the Venn diagrams, they all connect. There is interconnecting space between all of them. And that's really kind of what we're trying to represent to you today.
And then we just shared this other visual. This is from the CAST website as well. And the goal of UDL, like we said before, becoming expert learners. So giving some more information about what each of those areas of that Venn diagram that we just showed, like engagement, talking about the goal directed in their learning, knowing how to set challenges or just right challenges and learning goals for students, how to help sustain effort. And that's that area that we're going to focus on today, but also like thinking about how can we engage and represent and share information. How can we bring new information in and make it meaningful and help students gain knowledge in that. And then also, like Kathy just said too, just making our learners, helping them learn to express and be part of their own learning and engagement and monitoring their own progress, figuring out what their strengths and weaknesses are as learners and helping them learn the things that they need to do to be those expert learners and be motivated to be those expert learners. So this is just another great visual. There's so many of these great visuals on the CAST website that you can pull and use as reminders for yourself too.
So we wanted to take a minute to introduce you. If you don't know this lady, her name is Shelly Moore. And Shelly Moore is this wonderful researcher from Canada, and she talks all about universal design for learning. She has some great videos. One of her videos talks about bowling, and who thinks about bowling in education? But she does. So in this video, and we're only going to watch the tail end of it, she talks about reducing the barriers for all on a social level. That if we think about it from a society kind of standpoint, like Anna showed in the beginning, if you think about it up front, you don't have these issues later on down the road. So remove the barriers and plan for it, then you won't have as many barriers. Kind of like those visuals that we showed you in the beginning. Or think about when you go to the grocery store and the door just opens, right? My students used to say it was auto magic. And I'm like, yep, it is kind of magic, isn't it? You step on the thing and whoop, the door opens. Or when they put your hands underneath the sink and you don't have to worry about turning on the water or touching it. And nowadays, think about it, that's a great thing, right? It's magic, it's auto magic, but automatic kind of a thing. So we're just going to watch this real quick segment, and I really want to encourage you to watch the whole thing, but we'll watch a quick segment. And Anna, you said you actually got a chance to meet her, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, so she came to Madison Metropolitan School District, I think it was last school year, at the beginning of the school year, as kind of a kickoff to talk about engaging learners and just diversity and how it was just a very fascinating conversation. And she just every time she speaks or brings something out, she does it in such a way that makes it easy to understand and meaningful. And she just relates it to so many how she relates to people is just so fascinating. And you'll be very interested with this video, but I encourage you to seek her out in social media and even her website to just see more videos that she has available, because she's just fascinating to listen to, and a great resource to share with other people too. So.
Yeah, we've linked that in the end of our presentation. You'll find a link to her 5-minute videos, if you have nothing else to, you can spend 5 minutes a day learning something. We all have that amount of time. We can do that. So let's take a minute and let's listen to Shelly Moore.
Kathy, I don't hear the sound on it.
Oh, that's a bummer. Okay, let me see. Sometimes the videos don't show. Or the sound didn't come across. So we'll leave this linked in there, but really what she talks about is that we need, and let me just back this up just a hair so you can, I'll put that visual on the screen here. Where is that visual? Anticipate the barriers. She talks about anticipating things and doing it up front and making sure that we have that done ahead of time. And then she talks about, here, this one is the more support, the context, it reduces the barrier to the individual. The more we support the context it reduces the barriers, the less the individual resources a person will need to be successful. You know, when we talk about getting all the resources we have for kids, and we do a lot for kids, you know, we've got instructional aids, we've got additional equipment, you know, and all of these things, you know, but what if we didn't have to do all that much? And then we don't have to single out kids, you know, that they have a more significant disability. So think about just reducing those barriers. I think she had one more thing here. Oh, that's just her splash screen at the end. Yeah, what we can fix in context, instead of looking for what we can do to fix a deficit in a student. And she really talks about that. You know, our students are not broken. You know, I really have a hard time when I sit in IEPs, and Anna's shaking her head, she does too, when they say, well, just fix it. You're not broken. You just think differently, or you move differently, or it's not something that we fix. It's just we have to look at it differently. And we've all had times in our lives that things have happened. You know, I've had lots of spinal surgeries, and there are times when I couldn't pick up anything or sit or walk, and I had to find other ways to do things. So it's just on how you look at it. Nobody was broken. It's just an area that we need to go a different route to get there. Instead of you walking to Madison, it might be easier to drive, or in some cases maybe fly. So just think differently, and that really is the context to UDL. So we'll make sure that that's linked in the resources so you can watch that later.
Yes, highly recommend watching her. She's so fabulous.
And as long as we're talking about the segregation and ways to include everybody, I came across this law, the Olmsted Law, and it was actually published in 1999. And again, see, it also looks back at those of us who have been in this field forever. This is a law I didn't know existed. And I think that's important. The reason that it's important for us to go back and to always be learning something. This law in 1999 stated that it was unnecessary to always segregate people with disabilities, to ensure that persons with disabilities receive services in their most appropriate setting to their needs. So if you think about it, it's the right to live and the right to work wherever you want to. You know, students don't always have to end up as young adults in sheltered shops. You know, I'm sure that you have seen students out and about as adults, and they have the right to work and to live anywhere else. And the right universal design for learning supports, they certainly can. You know, and we're going to talk a lot about some of the technology that's out there nowadays that will ensure that people, either elderly or with disabilities, or maybe that someone just needs a little extra support, that they can live as independently as they wish to, and to work as independently as they feel that they can. And I think that that's just such an underlying social thing. And it kind of fit into Shelly Moore's statements about, you know, it's all about how we view things as a society. You know, we shouldn't view people always as different. I mean, people are people. You know, are we all the same? No, but none of us are broken. We are all just a little bit unique. So if you get a chance, look this law.